Right about now, you're probably wondering who I am, why you're here, yada, yada, yada. Well, I'm just gonna cut past all the pleasantries and get right to it. You're here because fate has brought you to me. And me, I'm here because destiny has chosen me to be here.
Hey, Donnie. You know, in France, a quarter pounder is called a royal with cheese.
There's this girl. She stole some money. And I need you to get the cash back and shut her up.
So why isn't Rocco the one coming to me then?
Keeping it on the deal.
Oh, so he doesn't know.
It's complicated.
I'm the man that's gonna put you down like the dog you are.
Cast out the demons!
Oh, come on. Cast that out, bitch.
Let's go.
What the hell are you doing here? Go. Your life.
What's up, guys? Lance the Obscure Movie Guy coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. And what you just saw is the latest offering from Samuel Franzman and his production team called In the Hands of Fate, which is a mafia-style crime thriller mixed with a religious cultist leader in what is truly a paradoxical film because it shouldn't work, but it does. Samuel Franzman did a great job taking two things that aren't necessarily even remotely related to each other, mixing them together in a somewhat complex but not too complex storyline as their worlds collide in what comes out to be a truly interesting and very original film.
How can it be both? It can't. It can't. But it is. It's paradoxical, and yet it works.
So to try and sum up the plot as best I can without giving too much away, basically what you have is a guy down on his luck named Donovan who gets mixed up with a local mafia boss named Rocco and his lackey Don Giovanni. Now, Rocco is having some issues with one of his other guys and decides to have Donovan take out a hit on him. In the midst of this, Donovan lets a witness go, which of course will come back to bite him in the butt. This witness also gets information that there's a bag of $50,000 worth of cash available at one of Rocco's hideouts and goes and gets said cash. And now the game is on for Donovan to try and get this money back that was basically a side hustle from Don Giovanni that was taken by the witness who was left at the scene of the crime, who gets mixed up with a whacked out cultist elite leader. And what truly is an interesting and original storyline through and through. Now, it sounds a lot more complicated than it is. Franzman did a really good job writing the film and never making things too complex for you to lose sight of what's actually going on. And it is really interesting how he connects all the dots throughout the course of this storyline. Now, the characters live in some naivety of what is going on with their characters, but you as the audience member are never involved in that at the same time. You always know what is happening, which makes it less complex for the audience goer. So not only does the movie have a very original story, Mr. Franzman also got together with some local musicians to create an original soundtrack for the film, as well as the overall music for the ambiance of the film. It was all done with local indie musicians, along with local cast and crew from the Northeast Ohio area to put all of this together, and did it very, very well on a minuscule $7,000 budget. So I do say most of the time that a lot of people do a lot with a little, and this is absolutely the case with Mr. Franzman. On $7,000, he made a 2-hour feature film with original storyline, original ideas, great execution, and an original soundtrack. Now, that's not to say that the movie isn't without its issues, but most of the issues that I usually run into with a lot of micro-budget independent films, I didn't have a whole lot of those issues. The cinematography is actually really well done. The videography is a little on the lower production quality side, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, and I'll get to that in a second. But the actual cinematography, the shots that they took and how they took them, was actually pretty good. But you do run into a couple of issues where some scenes could have been executed a little bit better than other ones. In particular, you have the Donovan killing Gunner in the beginning of the movie, which Rocco hired Donovan to do. Now, I don't know if this was supposed to be an alley back way or if it was supposed to take in like a courtyard type setting. I feel like it wasn't as executed as well. Giving a murder out in the public area, I kind of feel like that scene actually ran a little bit longer than it should have, and there wasn't quite a sense of urgency for Donovan to try and leave the area or let the witness go. It ran a few minutes too long, and I know part of that was to try and work on Donovan's character arc, which he does have the biggest arc throughout the course of the whole film. But that scene in particular did run a little long. And like I said, some other scenes that I don't want to give too much away could have been executed a little bit better, but not necessarily a bad thing. Another thing you'll run into is that because it is a mafia-style film, you do run into some typical and predictable type mafia-style dialogue throughout the course of the film. Rocco is played by Steven Scianti, and if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. But he did a really good job portraying the character, even though the character, I don't want to say he's over the top, but given the aesthetics of the film, I imagine it was probably hard to find I would say like a Hollywood-esque type mafia setting. So what you have is this mafia character that, from what I can tell, probably runs like an automotive shop or some sort of warehouse business, and comes off much flashier than his place of business. And that might be just a problem that Hollywood has put into our minds with how they convey mafia type bosses. It's always a very nice restaurant or a casino or something like that. But obviously underground crime can run in all types of rackets, not just restaurants and casinos. So from a aesthetic standpoint, it might seem like Rocco is a little bit out of place, but I think in true reality, that's probably not the case. There probably is some crime bosses that do run some underground types of, crime that is not related to what you would think as a typical mafia boss style setting. So kind of a good thing, kind of a weird thing, kind of a bad thing at the same time, because you do look at it from, if you look at it from your typical, what you're used to with other Hollywood mafia style films, then you're going to be like, well, this seems kind of weird. But if you take a look at it from a reality standpoint, a little bit more logical standpoint, it probably makes a little bit more sense. Now, one thing I did like and didn't like with this movie was the actual lighting. It was a little wonky. The lighting at night was not great, but I liked that because it added to the grittiness of the film. The polar opposite is the lighting during the day, I felt like they went a little overboard with in some regards. A perfect example is there is a scene where Donovan is in the park looking for this drugged out junkie that stole this $50,000 from Rocco, and what you're getting is, it's already sunny outside, and I feel like they had like one of those reflector type things where you're like trying to direct the sunlight to the actor, and it just came out overpowering, like bouncing off of his head, and I was like, that's too much lighting. So you have too much lighting during the day, which was kind of unnecessary, and then not enough lighting at night, which actually worked to the advantage to add to the grittiness of the film. Now, the first hour of this film runs as a typical, again, mafia-style crime thriller where these guys are, left a witness alive. She stole $50,000 worth of cash from Rocco. Donovan's trying to make things right, get the money back. Don Giovanni's the one that's been setting up this side hustle, and he doesn't want to get caught by Rocco because he's going to end up dead like Gunner. There's a lot going on in this first hour. And then around the 1 hour mark, you kind of get this paradigm shift in the film where Donovan finally does catch up with this junkie girl, trying to get the cash back, but is kidnapped by a cultist group led by Jeremiah Smith. Now, Jeremiah Smith is the lead of this cult group, and he is played by Joseph Legion Slade, and it was an absolute fun watching this guy act out as Jeremiah Smith. I mean, it was a great character to begin with, so it was a very well-written character, very well acted out by Slade, and a lot of cool scenes in this cultist compound where Donovan wakes up, you know, and is essentially going to be sacrificed as a part of this cultist group leader's, you know, whacked out, you know, mentality. But it's one of those things where and this is where the film, it has that paradigm shift, and it's paradoxical because it's two things that you wouldn't think would work together, but it does. It actually reminded me a lot of Johnny Mnemonic from 1995, if you're familiar with that film. Keanu Reeves, obviously taking place in the future, a lot of weird whacked out future stuff going on. Then you have Dolph Lundgren, who plays this whacked out preacher trying to kill him. And again, in that movie, it's like two weird things that you wouldn't think go together, but it actually worked out pretty well. And that kind of reminded me of this. And Joseph Legion Slade, just an unbelievable talent. There's an untapped talent right there that people really need to be getting into. It was a great character. It was well written and very well executed. Then towards the end of the movie, you have a collision of these two worlds that come together in what is a epic shootout. And part of me liked it for its B-movie charm. It was very reminiscent of 80s action films where it seems like everybody has a gun. The guns appear to come out of nowhere, and there's an endless supply of ammo. So there was some continuity errors in the the final gun fight between these two worlds. Endless ammo, no reloads, unnecessary cocking of the gun. The gun's already cocked, you cocked it again. Things like that. But I mean, I kind of liked it for that charm because it was kind of for me, it was a throwback to old B action movies that, you know, if you ever watched an Andy Sedaris film, that's, you know, everybody's got unlimited amount of ammo. The guy jumps over the couch and you shoot at him for 10 minutes and there's explosions going off. And there was a lot of that type stuff, you know, just small continuity errors that I picked up along the way. But I don't think you need to take the movie that seriously. It's a really solid storyline. And again, Franzman did a really good job of putting these two weird worlds together in what shouldn't work, but does. And again, the acting was pretty well done from for most of the parties that were involved. There were some sub characters that don't get a lot of screen time that weren't acted out very well, but you can kind of ignore that. It is a micro budget film. It is an indie film. You're not always going to get an Oscar worthy performance, but the main players in the film, Steve Scianti, Joseph Legion Slade as Jeremiah Smith, and then Donovan, who was played by Joseph Turner, all did great jobs. And Joseph Turner, like I said, Donovan had the best story arc, character arc, kind of going from this low-level scum, you know, mafia hitman that he doesn't really want to do, but he needs the money, and you find out, you know, a little bit of his personal life and turmoil that he's going through on a personal level. And at the end of the film, I really like the fact that, and again, I don't want to give too much away, but at the end of the film, Donovan does get out of that lifestyle, which you don't really see a lot of in mafia type films. It's like, oh, you want out? I don't think so. And then they end up putting a hit out on you anyways. So, but it was kind of nice to see that Donovan does get out of this lifestyle, and it's amicable between him and both parties, and they separate, hopefully to never meet again. But you never know what Franzman might have coming down the pipeline. All in all, this is a very solid, very original storyline that Franzman put together. He's been working on this since 2019, had a failed Indiegogo campaign. Well, I don't know if that was an Indiegogo campaign, but he had a failed crowdfunding campaign initially trying to get this thing off the ground. Finally got production started in 2023. Finally got it done late 2024, and hopefully will be out here in 2025. So you can actually follow In the Hands of Fate on Facebook to keep up with all the news and notes of what may be coming down for the pipeline and possible distribution. You can check out the trailer and a couple of scenes on their Facebook page if you go follow them. So I do recommend this movie. It is super interesting to see how it was executed. Again, Franzman been working on this for a long time. Micro budget of $7,000. There's a few parts that are kind of a Quentin Tarantino style type storytelling, and basically on a Robert Rodriguez style budget. So he's got some inspiration from some of these big time filmmakers that he used to put this together. And he had some really good acting to help push it along the way. So Guys, go check out In the Hands of Fate on Facebook. Like and follow them for more information. Like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube channel. And share the video. Check me out on Facebook. And I'll see everybody in the next one.